What would you do if your own family showed up at your door, not to celebrate you, but to take everything you built? My name is Elena, and this is the story I never thought I'd tell. For most of my life, I believed that family meant safety. I believed that no matter what happened, no matter how hard life got, my family would be the one thing I could count on. I was wrong. It all started 3 years ago when I finally moved into the small house I'd been saving for since college. Every corner of it felt like freedom. The chipped white fence, the squeaky wooden steps, even the leaky kitchen faucet I couldn't afford to replace. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I worked 2 jobs to make that dream real. One in the morning at a cafe and one at night managing online orders for a local store. I didn't mind the exhaustion because every paycheck brought me closer to independence, away from the chaos I'd grown up in. My family never understood that. They said I was being selfish for moving out, that I'd abandoned them. What they didn't see was how suffocating it had become living under their control, the constant criticism, the guilt trips, the way my achievements somehow always turned into their disappointments. For a while, the silence between us felt peaceful. I focused on my work, learned to cook for one, decorated my tiny living room with secondhand furniture, and finally started to feel like my life was my own. Then, one cold evening in November, everything changed. I came home from work, still in my cafe uniform, and there they were, my parents and my younger brother, standing on the porch with suitcases. At first, I thought something terrible had happened. I rushed to open the door, asking if they were okay. My mother smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile I remembered. "We're moving in," she said, just like that. I stood there, stunned. "Moving in? What do you mean?" My father stepped forward, his tone heavy with authority. "This house belongs to the family, Elena. You wouldn't have it without us. We've decided to live here for a while. You'll make room." I tried to explain that I had a small mortgage, that the space was barely enough for me, that it wasn't possible. But they brushed me off. To them, my boundaries were just obstacles to be ignored. By the end of the week, my house didn't feel like mine anymore. They'd filled it with old furniture, boxes, noise, and criticism. My brother used my laptop without asking. My mother took over the kitchen. My father controlled the bills. It felt like being a guest in my own home. At night, I'd lie awake listening to them argue in the next room. I told myself to stay calm, that it was temporary, that they'd leave once they realized how small the space really was. But they didn't leave. Weeks turned into months. Then one afternoon, while cleaning, I found a letter from my bank. It said the mortgage payments hadn't gone through. Someone had changed the online access. My stomach dropped. I confronted my father, and he didn't even deny it. He said, "You don't understand finances, Elena. I'm just helping manage things." Helping. That word felt like poison. I went to my room, locked the door, and checked my accounts. Thousands of dollars were missing, money I'd saved for years. They had transferred it little by little to my parents' joint account. When I confronted my mother, she cried. She said I owed them for raising me, for the food, the roof, the clothes. Every word cut deeper than the last. That night, I sat in the dark and realized I was reliving my childhood, powerless, unheard, trapped. Only this time, it was in the home I built for myself. I knew I had 2 choices: let them take everything or fight for the life I built. So I did something that terrified me. I called a lawyer. I explained everything, showed the transactions, the letter, the proof. It took weeks, but eventually the law caught up. They were forced to leave. The day they moved out, my house was silent again. Empty, but peaceful. I stood in the doorway and felt tears fall, not because I was sad, but because I finally understood something. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about respect, trust, and love that doesn't demand your soul in return. For months after they left, I couldn't sleep properly. I'd wake up expecting the sound of their voices, the footsteps, the arguments. The trauma lingered like a shadow. But over time, I learned to breathe again. I painted the walls, fixed the faucet, planted lavender outside the porch. I started volunteering at a shelter for women who'd faced similar stories, people who'd lost control of their own lives, but found courage to take it back. One evening, a woman at the shelter asked me if I ever regretted cutting them off. I thought about it. The truth is, sometimes I miss who I wished they were. The family I imagined. But missing that version doesn't mean I want them back. Because peace is worth more than guilt. And freedom is worth more than forced love. Now, when I come home, I see more than just a house. I see proof that I survived. Proof that I can rebuild no matter who tries to tear it down. And if you're listening to this, if someone has made you believe that you owe them your happiness, please remember this. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to shrink so others can feel comfortable. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no, even to the people who share your last name. My name is Elena, and this is how I learned that protecting my heart was not betrayal. It was survival. If my story touched you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, your peace is not up for negotiation. Subscribe for more real stories that remind you that strength often begins where heartbreak once lived.